Against the backdrop of Europe's growing climate debate, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz stepped into the spotlight at the EAA Motor Show. The exhibition floor buzzed with cameras, journalists and industry leaders, every glance fixed on how Germany would navigate the European Union's target to phase out combustion engine vehicles by 2035. Merz began his visit at BMW, sliding into the driver's seat of a gleaming model, cameras flashing around him. His symbolic presence at the stand sent a clear message. Germany's iconic automakers remain at the heart of this political and economic storm. Merz exchanged words with Oliver Zipse, BMW's chairman, listening as company leaders spoke of their innovations, but also of their unease over Brussels' rigid path toward electrification. From BMW, the Chancellor moved to Opel, with Hildegard Müller, president of the German Association of the Automotive Industry, at his side. He met CEO Florian Huettel. Their smiles and handshakes masked the gravity of the conversation. For Opel, as for others, the fear is not change itself, but the lack of flexibility. Executives argued that the European Commission's one-size-fits-all approach risks sidelining technological diversity, whether synthetic fuels, hydrogen or hybrids. At the Mall stand, engines gleamed under bright lights, polished and precise, symbols of an industry determined not to be written out of Europe's future. Here, Merz greeted CAO Arndt Franz, who seized the moment to voice what many in the automotive world have whispered for months, that Brussels must not close the door on competition between technologies. Arndt Franz said plainly, "We must ensure in Brussels that regulations are opened up, leaving room for ideas and competition between technologies. This is what we want, together with our association and the entire industry, manufacturers and suppliers alike. And we would be very pleased if you could raise a strong German voice in Brussels to pave the way for this." His words, both in German and English, reflected the frustration of suppliers who see their expertise being dismissed in the rush to electrification. Merz listened, and when it was his turn to speak, his candour drew attention. He responded, "Well, you haven't just convinced me today. I've actually been questioning for quite some time whether we're really on the right track with this one-sided legal fixation on a single technology. Let me put it very plainly. In politics, we have no real expertise in this. That's your field. What we have to set is the goal, climate neutrality. But how we get there, the path to that goal, has to be designed by your engineers. You can do that. We cannot." With that, Merz captured the tension of the day. His statement was more than a reassurance. It was a challenge to Brussels and a pledge to German industry that their voices would not go unheard. The tour continued at Volkswagen. There, Merz met CEO Oliver Blume, who emphasised VW's multi-billion euro investments in electrification, while also insisting that Europe must not ignore the role of alternative fuels and transitional technologies. At Mercedes, Merz concluded his circuit, exchanging words with executives who are pushing luxury brands into the electric era, but warning that Asian competition, particularly from China, is intensifying at a rapid pace. But beyond the handshakes and photo opportunities, the real story of the Munich Motor Show was the policy battle combusting beneath the surface. For Brussels, the 2035 deadline to ban sales of combustion engine cars is a cornerstone of its climate agenda. For Germany, however, the stakes are deeply personal. The automotive industry employs nearly 800,000 workers, underpins entire regions, and remains a symbol of national pride. Executives at the IAA argued that the shift must be managed with pragmatism. Synthetic fuels capable of running in existing engines were showcased as a potential bridge. Hydrogen-powered prototypes gleamed as proof that electrification is not the only way forward. Hybrids, too, were positioned as a crucial transitional technology. The common message: Brussels must trust the engineers who built Europe's automotive supremacy. For suppliers like Mali, the stakes are existential. For manufacturers like BMW, Volkswagen and Mercedes, the risk is global competitiveness. Chinese automakers are now producing affordable electric vehicles at unprecedented speed, threatening to outpace European brands if regulation in Europe narrows consumer choice too quickly. Merz's intervention was therefore not just about technology, but about geopolitics and economics. His remarks signalled that Berlin may push back against Brussels' rigidity. Observers noted how his tone closely matched that of industry leaders, suggesting a new alignment between German politics and German manufacturing. Yet, environmental groups were quick to criticise. They accused the Chancellor of backtracking, warning that diluting the EU's 2035 target would undermine Europe's climate commitments and weaken its leadership in green innovation. For activists, Merz's words were a dangerous concession to industry lobbies at a time when urgent action is needed to curb emissions. The debate is now set to intensify. France and Italy, alongside Eastern European member states, are closely watching Germany's stance. If Berlin resists Brussels' timeline, it could fracture EU unity on climate goals. If it complies, it risks anger at home from workers and manufacturers who fear being sacrificed on the altar of regulation. As the day drew to a close in Munich, the symbolism was striking. The IAA Motor Show was no longer just a showcase of polished cars and futuristic concepts. It had become a battleground of competing visions, engineers defending innovation, politicians balancing jobs and climate targets, and activists demanding nothing less than a green revolution. For Friedrich Merz, the challenge is as political as it is technical. He must protect Germany's economic backbone while convincing Brussels and the German public that climate neutrality remains achievable. His words in Munich will echo in the months ahead as negotiations over Europe's automotive future reach boiling point. In the glow of the exhibition halls, the message was clear. The engines of politics and technology are now locked in high gear. The road ahead is uncertain. But in Munich, on this day, the battle over Europe's automotive soul had truly combusted into the open.
Sie können sich auch gerne reinsetzen. Ist ein völlig neues Bedienkonzept. Das ist ein sehr aufgeräumtes Interior. Das Thema Sprachsteuerung bekommt bei uns gilt ein ganz einfacher Satz: Eyes on the road, hands on the wheels. Keine fahrererwerbsfähige Produkte haben. Und damit braucht Deutschland auch keine Angst vom Wettbewerb zu haben. Wir sind offensiv, wir sind mutig.
Für unsere Industrie in diesen Zeiten der Transformation. I will take the opportunity, it was a great occasion. Wir bauen in Rüsselsheim Zukunft, wir investieren in Deutschland in die Zukunft, in das Opel der Zukunft. Und ich freue mich heute schon darauf, dass ich Sie dann im Übernächsten...
Für das ganze Unternehmen.
Dankeschön. Sie haben recht, Opel hat eine lange Historie, Opel hat sehr viel bewegt in der Vergangenheit. In die Zukunft der Designsprache der Marke Opel und auch in die Zukunft. So, jetzt haben wir, so können Sie entsprechend hier reinschauen.
Diese IAA getitelt mit Effizienz, Effizienz, Effizienz. Effizienz in unseren Geschäftsprozessen.
Fahrzeuge, Luxusfahrzeuge, Lastwagen, Transporter und Busse. Mobilität. Das sind Produkte von Volkswagen, von Cupra und von Skoda. Wir starten in diesem Jahr in Deutschland, werden dann in Spanien weitermachen und dann in Kanada. Gewicht im Fahrzeug deutlich reduzieren, um auf gleiche Reichweite zu kommen. Oder wenn man jetzt gleiche Energieeinheit hat.
Herzlich willkommen. Hallo, Verkehrsgeist, unser Vertriebschef. Die haben gesagt,
Wir müssen in Brüssel dafür sorgen, dass die Regulierung aufgemacht wird, Freiraum lässt für Ideen, Freiraum lässt für den Wettbewerb der Technologien. Und das wünschen wir uns gemeinsam mit dem VDA, unserem Verband und die ganze Industrie, Hersteller wie Zulieferer gemeinsam. Und wir würden uns sehr freuen, wenn Sie eine kräftige deutsche Stimme in Brüssel erheben, um den Weg dafür auch frei zu machen.
We must ensure in Brussels that regulations are opened up, leaving room for ideas and competition between technologies. this is what we want, together with the VD. Well, you haven't just convinced me today, and I've actually been questioning for quite some time whether we're really on the right track with this one-sided legal fixation on a single technology. Let me put it very plainly. In politics, we have no real expertise in this. That's your field. What we have to set is the goal, climate neutrality. But how we get there, the path to that goal, has to be designed by your engineers. You can do that, we cannot.